Welcome to the Webster Insider and our special Election Day preview. I'm Ethan Tarantella.
And I'm Brian Rubin. Tuesday, November 5th is almost here. And with a large number of first-time voters on campus, knowledge is key to preparing for your day at the polls.
Make your voice heard on Election Day. Webster Insider's Gabrielle Lindemann takes a closer look at the Missouri ballot and how the candidates and issues can affect you.
There's no question. The race for president is the most talked about item on the ballot this November.
The most important issue is who will be the president of the United States. I think all the other issues, all the other topics really pale in comparison with who is going to be the leader. So I think that I would encourage and urge all young people, eligible voters, to give some long, serious, hard thought about who has the vision, who has the leadership, who has the ability to take our country in the direction that they think is going to be in their best interest.
If you're casting your vote in Missouri, there are some top issues that directly affect you or a loved one.
That's on the ballot in Missouri is Amendment 3, and that would enshrine a woman's right to choose reproductive freedoms in the Missouri Constitution. So depending on what your stance is on that, regardless, that's a pretty important topic, I think, especially for young people as you're, early in stages of, your reproductive health and thinking about those kinds of things.
The youth vote, particularly the college vote, they are our future. So their insights, their wishes, their concerns are going to be the concerns that are going to be most important.
While it may feel like your vote is a drop in the ocean for the presidential election, for smaller elections, it can mean the difference between candidates.
All the way down to the most local level, because those are often things that really impact you on a day-to-day basis that you might not realize. But when it comes to a city council election or a mayoral election or a local ballot initiative, school boards, things like that, those are often within, 10 or 20 votes, depending on how many people have cast a ballot.
There are about 36 issues on the ballot if you're voting in Webster Groves. Sample ballots like this one can be found at the St. Louis County Board of Elections website. Whether you're a seasoned voter or voting for the first time, do your research and educate yourself. After all, issues that directly impact you and your neighbor are on the line. For the Webster Insider, I'm Gabrielle Lindemann.
It's no surprise Amendment 3, a referendum on reproductive rights, is getting a lot of attention. As reporter Layla Halilbasic tells us, this follows more than a year of challenges in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade.
In Missouri, a vote for Amendment 3 would enshrine language in the state constitution that protects abortion rights up until fetal viability. This means Webster students like Mara Benson get their say in what happens next.
As somebody with a uterus, it definitely affects me, and a lot of people may question personally, because I identify as a queer woman, they may wonder, well, maybe abortion rights don't affect you, but what if I get sexually assaulted, for example? That's still very possible for me.
I think something to mention there is, yes, people are, of course, entitled to their thoughts and opinions, but at the same time, there's a difference between a thought and opinion and just a human right. It's definitely more complex than that, but things kind of like that can help putting yourself directly in their shoes if you can. Because the thing is, maybe it may not be something that individual wants to do, and that's completely fine, but it doesn't mean that you need to take that away from everyone else,
While some Webster students may be unsure of where they stand, advocates encourage them to talk to their peers, ask questions, get involved, and vote.
College students especially are very passionate and very, they know how to talk to people about these issues. They're highlighting the fact that yes, this affects women extremely, but not just women. And to think about not only that, but our queer and trans brothers and sisters and siblings, and also just knowing that we do have a power in this and knowing to vote on yes on 3 in November.
It's not saying it's easy to pick or anything like that. I'm not telling anyone who to vote for anything. But what I am saying is you need to do something. You need to do what you can. You need to make your voice heard how you can. Otherwise, if you're staying silent, you're not doing something, you're giving it to the oppressor.
I'm standing outside the Webster Groves Public Library on Lockwood Avenue, one of numerous polling locations near campus. No matter where you may stand on the issues surrounding reproductive rights, it's crucial to note that the only way to make your voice heard is through voting. For the Webster Insider, I'm Layla Halilbasic.
Also top of mind are issues affecting the LGBTQ community. And while there are no legislative proposals on the ballot, candidates on both sides have been especially vocal about transgender rights. Webster Insider's Cas Herndon has more.
For those looking to educate themselves about issues facing members of the LGBTQ community and their families, Promo Missouri, an advocacy group that promotes LGBTQ rights within the state and local communities, offers some answers.
So last year, SB 49 banned gender-affirming healthcare for youth. It also banned healthcare for low-income individuals and those living incarceration. And so it was a really tough loss for our state and the LGBTQ plus community.
This is why every vote counts, and Fisher adds, everyone should feel empowered to vote, regardless of age. Do your research and look into the policies of every candidate from the top to the bottom of the ballot for the election. Also keeping an eye on the election in St. Louis is the Metro Trans Umbrella Group. The nonprofit provides a wide range of support for trans individuals, from gender-affirming clothes to resources for hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, and surgery. Roxy Mullins, a Webster alum, is now involved with Metro as a magazine editor.
Missouri was one of the states that went forward and really heavily pushed for a ban on HRT for anyone under a certain age, and it often starts with that, and then it starts going into, okay, now we've got our foot in the door, let's continue restricting things. It's already bad enough to give them an inch. We should never give them an inch on our own human rights, but the second they take an inch, they go for the next mile.
Remember, if you want to make your voice heard in support of the trans community, educate yourself ahead of next month's election, especially where the candidates stand, and do your part by voting on November 5th. To learn more about LGBTQ policy and how to support the queer community in Missouri, visit Promo's website. For trans individuals and their loved ones seeking support, Metro Trans Umbrella Group's website offers information on access to HRT and gender-affirming surgery funds, as well as to food pantries and more. For the Webster Insider, I'm Cas Herndon.
More than 40 million Gen Z voters are eligible to cast ballots in this election. But just how closely are they paying attention? Reporter Lucy Caira finds some answers.
Laughter, disbelief, shock. These may be what you'd expect while watching your favorite TV drama. But during a presidential debate, last month, students attended a watch party hosted by Webster Votes for a friendly viewing of the debate between Democratic nominee Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican nominee former President Donald Trump. For this election, approximately 8 million Gen Z first-time voters grapple with the enormous responsibility of casting a presidential ballot. For many young adults, it's a challenge to take politicians seriously, with some even finding the top candidates laughable or pitiful. A common misconception is that the younger generation is disengaged due to the increasingly polarized political climate. Yet, a number of Webster University students feel compelled to express their voices more than ever and stress the importance of voting.
I think exercising your right to vote and your voice in this country is your biggest superpower in this country. I mean, it's what it's founded on, and I especially think for women and people of color, people, the LGBTQ plus community and everyone in between, it's so important to exercise that right because these issues affect us directly, and nothing will ever change if you don't act on it yourself. And people have worked so hard for us to be able to have these rights to vote, and I think that not exercising that, I personally think it's just a disservice.
Can't complain about something if you're not going to do anything to fix it. And as people get older and stop voting, it's really important for us to move in and continue to vote and have a say in what our future will be.
41 million Gen Z voters are eligible to vote this November, 8 million of whom will be voting for the very first time. According to a report by NBC, concerns about inflation, threats to democracy, and abortion are top of mind among Gen Z voters. As the most diverse and educated age group, they tend to lean more liberal. However, global conflicts and personal safety seem to sway opinion with younger voters.
To me, I would say things that are most important would be, I mean, one of the biggest things is the Israel-Gaza conflict. It's a huge tragedy, and I think a lot of people are saying that and not wanting to stand up towards that. The biggest thing is also the economy going into going into a recession soon, and how we're going to go through that. Another big issue is, college debt, or just the debt in general, and we as college students, how are we going to be affording as college rates get higher and higher?
Yearning for utmost representation in government and achieving social justice, among other concerns, may have young people discouraged by what they see as a lack of progress. Regardless, politically active Gen Zers remain hopeful.
It's so easy to get so caught up in everything that we're seeing, but I think that I hope that we have a big voter turnout. I'm really trying hard to get people to vote, and so I like to say that I'm pretty positive. It's hard to be, especially what comes on the news is anything that's super negative. It's just really cool to see so many people that I'm close to care about this, and that gives me hope.
For the Webster Insider, I'm Lucy Caira.
And finally, social media. It's a part of our lives, whether we invite it or not. It brings us news, entertainment, trends. But how do we know it's real? Here's Webster Insider's Chloe Sapp.
With many Webster students voting for the first time this election, doing the research is one thing to worry over. But with social media misinformation being spread so easily, students have even more to worry about. Social media is a main resource to gain voter knowledge, as news outlets and influencers share infographics such as Get to Know Your Ballot or voter guides. Sophomore Maddie Griffin often shares informational political posts on her Instagram to educate her peers.
I think that Gen Z has a lot more awareness about what is going on in the world because of social media. I just think that it is really important to fact check, but I think that when it comes to sharing news and sharing what's going on in the world and the election, I think social media is really beneficial.
While social media provides accessible and easy to digest information, it may not always be reliable. Anyone can post anything on social media without having to be fact-checked.
In August, Donald Trump created and shared AI images of Taylor Swift endorsing his presidency. A month later, in a post to Instagram, Swift endorsed Trump's opponent, Kamala Harris, citing the AI images as one of the reasons she publicly endorsed the vice president. Swift wrote, in part, "It really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. It brought me to the conclusion that I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth." According to media studies professor Julie Smith, 51% of adults get their political information from social media platforms.
We're much more interested in what we believe than what is true. And even facts can be argued. Because of the spread of misinformation and the bubbles that we put ourselves in deliberately and the algorithms that control what we see, we aren't interested in other points of view. We're much more interested in what we believe than what is true. And that's unfortunate.
With misinformation being so easy to spread on socials, how can viewers figure out what is true and what's not? Smith suggests asking 5 questions about every piece of media you see.
Who's the sender? What's their motive or intent? How is the message designed to get my attention? What information is left out, and who benefits or profits from this?
For the Webster Insider, I'm Chloe Sapp.
On November 5th, polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Be sure to bring an unexpired form of ID, such as a driver's license or a U.S. passport.
And with this year's ballot being significantly longer than usual, plan for extra time. Regardless of how you do it, vote.
This has been a special election edition of the Webster Insider. I'm Brian Rubin.
I'm Ethan Tarantella. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the polls.